I was 28 when I met him. My name is Sarah, and I was working as a graphic designer in a small creative agency in Seattle. Life was good, but not perfect. I'd been single for a couple of years, after a messy breakup with my college boyfriend, Tom. That relationship had left me cautious, maybe even a little guarded. I wasn't looking for love. I was focused on my career, my morning coffee runs, and the quiet evenings I spent sketching in my tiny apartment overlooking the Puget Sound. But life, as I've learned, has a way of throwing you curveballs when you least expect them. It was a rainy Tuesday in October when I first saw Michael. He walked into our office for a client meeting, shaking rain off, his coat and flashing a smile that felt like sunlight breaking through the clouds. He was older than me, maybe late 30s, with kind eyes and a quiet confidence that made you want to listen when he spoke. He was the marketing director for a local nonprofit, and my boss had assigned me to work on their new branding campaign. I was nervous, not because of the project, but because of the way his gaze lingered on me when we were introduced. "Sarah, right?" he said, his voice warm and steady. "I've heard great things about your work." I blushed, fumbling with my portfolio. "Thanks. I'm excited to help with the campaign." That was it. A simple exchange. But there was something about him, something that made my heart skip a beat. Maybe it was the way he listened when I presented my ideas, nodding thoughtfully, or the way he laughed when I made a bad joke about fonts. It felt effortless, like we'd known each other for years. Over the next few weeks, we worked closely together. Meetings turned into coffee breaks, and coffee breaks turned into long conversations about everything. Art, music, our childhoods. I told him about growing up in a small town in Oregon, where my mom raised me alone after my dad left when I was 6. He shared stories about his love for hiking, and how he'd once spent a summer backpacking through Europe. He never mentioned a wife. Not once. And I didn't ask. I didn't think to. I was too caught up in the way he made me feel. Seen. Understood. Alive. One evening, we were the last ones in the office, going over logo designs. The rain was pounding against the windows, and the city lights blurred outside. Michael leaned over my shoulder to look at my screen, and I felt his breath on my neck. My heart raced. I turned to say something, and our eyes locked. For a moment, I thought he might kiss me, but he pulled back, clearing his throat. "I should get going," he said, his voice quieter than usual. "It's late." I nodded, disappointed but not sure why. "Yeah, me too." As he grabbed his coat, he hesitated. "Sarah, I really enjoy working with you." I smiled, my chest warm. "I enjoy working with you too." That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying that moment in my head, wondering what it meant. I didn't know then that I was already falling for him. I didn't know that my life was about to change in ways I couldn't imagine. The next few months were a whirlwind. Michael and I grew closer. We'd text outside of work, share playlists, and even met up a few times for lunch. I started to notice little things about him. How he always carried a worn-out notebook to jot down ideas. How he'd hum softly when he was deep in thought. Every moment with him felt like a gift. Like I was finally waking up after years of sleepwalking through life. But there was a nagging feeling in the back of my mind. He never invited me to his place. He never talked about his personal life beyond vague stories. I told myself it was because he was private. Or maybe he was just as cautious as I was after my last relationship. I didn't want to push. I didn't want to ruin what we had. Then one day everything changed. It was a Friday, and we'd just wrapped up a big presentation for the nonprofit. To celebrate, the team went out for drinks at a bar downtown. Michael and I sat next to each other, our knees brushing under the table. The conversation flowed easily, and I felt bolder than usual. Maybe because of the wine, or maybe because I was tired of wondering. I leaned closer and asked, "So Michael, what's your story? You know so much about me, but I feel like I barely know you." He laughed, but it was different, nervous almost. He took a sip of his beer, then set it down slowly. "My story's not that exciting. he said, avoiding my eyes. Come on, I teased. There's gotta be something. Are you secretly a superhero? Living a double life? He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Then quietly, he said, I'm married, Sarah. The words hit me like a punch. I froze, my glass halfway to my lips. Married? I repeated, hoping I'd misheard. He nodded, looking down at the table. Yeah, I've been married for 5 years. I felt the air leave my lungs. The bar seemed to spin around me, the laughter and music fading into a dull hum. Why didn't you tell me? I managed to ask. I don't know, he said, his voice heavy. I should have. I didn't want to ruin this. Whatever this is. I wanted to be angry, to yell at him for leading me on. But all I felt was hurt. I'd let myself fall for him, and he'd let me. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. I need to go, I said, grabbing my coat. Sarah, wait. But I didn't wait. I walked out into the rain, my heart breaking with every step. That night, I cried myself to sleep. I felt betrayed. But more than that, I felt stupid. How had I not seen it? How had I let myself get so caught up in someone who was never mine to begin with? I told myself I'd stay away from him, that I'd focus on work and forget him. But deep down, I knew it wouldn't be that easy. The next morning, I woke up to a text from Michael. I'm so sorry. Sarah, can we talk? I stared at the message for a long time, my thumb hovering over the reply button. I wanted to ignore it, to delete his number and move on. But my heart had other plans. I didn't reply to Michael's text right away. I couldn't. My emotions were a mess. Anger, sadness, and something else I didn't want to admit. Longing. I spent the weekend holed up in my apartment, sketching aimlessly, trying to make sense of what I felt. I kept asking myself why I hadn't noticed the signs. No ring, sure, but there were other clues. His guarded answers, the way he always left early, the fact that he never invited me to his place. I'd been so caught up in the way he made me feel that I'd ignored the red flags. On Monday, I went to work dreading the moment I'd see him. I told myself I'd be professional, keep things strictly business. But when he walked into the office for our next meeting, my resolve crumbled. He looked tired, his usual confidence replaced by something softer, almost vulnerable. He caught my eye and gave me a small, hesitant smile. I looked away, focusing on my laptop. The meeting was torture. I could feel his gaze on me, but I refused to meet it. When it was over, I gathered my things quickly, hoping to escape before he could say anything. But he caught up with me in the hallway. Sarah, please, he said, his voice low. Can we talk? Just for a minute. I wanted to say no, to walk away and protect myself. But I nodded, following him to a quiet corner of the office. I'm so sorry, he started. I should have told you from the beginning. I didn't mean to hurt you. Then why didn't you? I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. Why did you let me think? Whatever I thought. He ran a hand through his hair, looking frustrated with himself. I don't know. I got caught up in you. You're different, Sarah. You make me feel things I haven't felt in a long time. My heart twisted at his words, but I pushed it down. You're married, Michael. That's not fair to me, or to your wife. I know, he said, his voice breaking. My marriage, it's complicated. We've been struggling for years. We're more like roommates than anything else. But I'm not making excuses. I messed up. I wanted to ask more. What did struggling mean? Was he unhappy? Was there a chance for us? But I stopped myself. Those questions would only pull me deeper into something I knew was wrong. I can't do this, I said finally. I need to focus on work. Let's just keep this professional, okay? He nodded, his eyes filled with regret. Okay, if that's what you want. It wasn't what I wanted. Not really. But it was what I needed to do. Or so I thought. For the next few weeks, I tried to keep my distance. I avoided one-on-one meetings, kept our conversations short, and threw myself into my work. But Michael was still there, a constant presence in my thoughts. I'd catch myself remembering the way he laughed, the way he'd lean in close when we talked. I hated how much I missed him. One evening, I was working late, finalizing some designs for the nonprofit. The office was empty, the hum of the city outside the only sound. I heard footsteps and looked up to see Michael standing in the doorway. "I thought you went home," I said, my voice guarded. "I was about to," he said, stepping closer. But I saw the light on. "You're working too hard, Sarah." I shrugged, keeping my eyes on my screen. "Just finishing up." He sat on the edge of my desk, his presence impossible to ignore. "I miss talking to you," he said softly. "I know I screwed up, but I hate this. This distance." I looked up at him, my heart pounding. "Michael, you can't say things like that." "I know," he said, his voice raw. "But it's the truth." I stood up, needing to put space between us. "You're married. You have a wife. I can't be the person who comes between that." He looked at me, his eyes searching mine. "What if I told you I'm thinking about leaving her?" The words hung in the air, heavy and dangerous. I felt a spark of hope, followed immediately by guilt. "Don't say that," I whispered. "Don't make this harder." "I'm not trying to," he said. I can't stop thinking about you. I've tried, Sarah. I've tried to do the right thing, but I can't." I wanted to tell him to leave, to stop confusing me. But instead I stepped closer. I don't know why. Maybe because I was tired of fighting my feelings. Maybe because I wanted to believe there was a way for us. Before I knew it, his hand was on my cheek, and then we were kissing. It was soft at first, tentative. But it quickly deepened, like we'd both been holding back for too long. When we pulled apart, I was trembling. "This is wrong," I said, my voice barely audible. "I know," he said, his forehead resting against mine. "But it doesn't feel wrong." That was the moment I crossed a line I couldn't uncross. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't stop. I was in love with him, and that love was stronger than my sense of right and wrong. For the next few months, we fell into a secret rhythm. Stolen moments in the office, late-night texts, meetings that lasted longer than they needed to. Every time I was with him, I felt alive, like the world was brighter, sharper. But every time I was alone, the guilt crept in. I'd think about his wife, a woman I'd never met but who haunted my thoughts. I'd imagine her face, wonder what she was like, wonder if she knew her husband was slipping away. I started to change. I was distracted at work, distant with my friends. My mom noticed it during our weekly phone calls. "You okay, honey?" she'd ask. "You don't sound like yourself." "I'm fine," I'd lie, forcing a smile she couldn't see. But I wasn't fine. I was torn between the man I loved and the person I wanted to be. Then came the first big twist. One evening, Michael asked me to meet him at a small cafe outside the city. It was risky. We'd always been careful to avoid public places, but I went anyway. When I got there, he looked nervous, his hands fidgeting with a napkin. "Sarah, I need to tell you something," he said, his voice low. "My wife, she's pregnant." The world tilted. I felt sick, my stomach twisting. "Pregnant?" I whispered. He nodded, his face pale. "We weren't planning it. It just happened." I didn't know what to say. A baby, a family. The reality of what we were doing crashed over me like a wave. "What does this mean?" I asked, my voice shaking. "I don't know," he said, reaching for my hand. "I still want to be with you. I'm going to leave her, Sarah, I promise." But his promise felt hollow. A baby changed everything. I pulled my hand away, tears burning my eyes. "I need time," I said, standing up. "I can't do this right now." I left the cafe, my heart in pieces. I didn't know if I could keep going, but I didn't know how to let him go either. The weeks after Michael's bombshell were the hardest of my life. I felt like I was drowning in guilt, love, and confusion. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his wife, faceless, but real, carrying a child that would tie her to Michael forever. I hated myself for what I'd become. I'd always thought of myself as a good person, someone who did the right thing. But here I was, in love with a married man, breaking every rule I'd ever set for myself. I stopped seeing Michael outside of work. I told him I needed space, that I couldn't keep doing this. He respected it mostly. He'd send me texts, simple things like, "I miss you," or "I'm here when you're ready." But I didn't respond. I threw myself into my work, taking on extra projects to keep my mind busy. But no matter how many hours I spent designing, I couldn't escape the ache in my chest. My best friend Emily noticed something was wrong. We'd been friends since college, and she knew me better than anyone. One night, she showed up at my apartment with pizza and wine, refusing to leave until I talked. "Okay, Sarah," she said, setting the pizza box on my coffee table. "What's going on?" "You've been a ghost lately." I wanted to tell her everything, but the shame held me back. "How do you admit to your best friend that you're in love with a married man, that you're the other woman?" But Emily's kind eyes and stubborn determination broke me down. I told her everything. The late-night talks, the kiss, the pregnancy. By the time I finished, I was sobbing. "Oh, Sarah," she said, pulling me into a hug. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I was ashamed, I admitted. "I know it's wrong. I know I should walk away. But I love him." Emily didn't judge me, but she didn't sugarcoat it either. "You deserve better than this," she said. "You're worth more than being someone's secret." Her words stuck with me, but they didn't make it easier. I wanted to believe I deserved better, but my heart kept pulling me back to Michael. A month later, I ran into him at a work event. It was a fundraiser for the nonprofit, and I couldn't avoid him. He looked as handsome as ever in a suit, but there was a sadness in his eyes that mirrored my own. We ended up talking, just the two of us, in a quiet corner of the venue. "How are you?" he asked, his voice gentle. "I'm trying," I said honestly. "It's hard." "I know," he said. "I hate that I've put you in this position. I'm trying to figure things out, Sarah. I want to do right by you." "And by your wife?" I asked, my voice sharper than I meant. He flinched. "I'm trying. It's not easy. There's a lot to sort through." I wanted to believe him, but the weight of his words, the pregnancy, the marriage, felt like a wall between us. "I don't know if I can wait for you to figure it out," I said. "I'm losing myself, Michael." He reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "I love you," he said, his voice breaking. "I know it's messy, but I do." Those 3 words should have made me happy, but they only made the pain worse. Because I loved him too, and that love was tearing me apart. I left the event early, my heart heavy. I spent the next few weeks trying to rebuild myself. I started therapy, something I'd never thought I'd need. My therapist, Dr. Larson, was kind but direct. She helped me unpack why I'd fallen so hard for Michael, why I'd let myself cross that line. "You're looking for something," she said during one session. "Maybe it's the stability you didn't have growing up, with your dad leaving. Maybe Michael feels like he fills that void." Her words hit hard. I'd never thought about it that way, but she was right. Michael's attention, his warmth, had made me feel safe in a way I hadn't since I was a kid. But that safety came at a cost. I started to focus on myself. I took up yoga, reconnected with friends, and even started painting again, something I hadn't done since college. Slowly, I felt pieces of myself coming back. But Michael was still there, in the back of my mind, like a song I couldn't stop humming. Then came another twist. One day, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. "Hello?" I said, cautious. "Sarah?" a woman's voice said. "This is Laura, Michael's wife." My heart stopped. I felt like I'd been caught, like the world was closing in. How did you get my number?" I stammered. "I found it in Michael's phone," she said, her voice calm but cold. "I know about you. I know what's been going on." I didn't know what to say. I wanted to apologize, to explain, but the words wouldn't come. "I'm sorry," I finally managed. "I never meant to hurt anyone." "I don't want your apologies," she said. "I want you to stay away from my husband. We're trying to make this work for our baby. Please just leave us alone." The line went dead, and I sat there trembling. I felt like the worst person in the world. Laura's voice echoed in my head, and for the first time, I saw her not as a faceless figure but as a real person, hurting because of me. I knew then that I had to end it. Not just for Laura, but for myself. I couldn't keep living in this limbo, torn between love and guilt. I texted Michael that night, "We're done. Please don't contact me anymore." He tried to call, but I didn't answer. He sent texts, but I deleted them without reading. It hurt, but it was the right thing to do. Or so I thought. Letting go of Michael was like trying to quit an addiction. Every day I fought the urge to text him, to check his social media, to see if he was okay. I threw myself into my new routine. Yoga, painting, therapy. But the emptiness lingered. I missed him. Not just the man I loved, but the person I'd been with him. Carefree, hopeful, alive. Work was the hardest. He was still part of the nonprofit project. And while I managed to avoid most meetings, there were moments when we'd cross paths. A glance in the hallway, a nod during a group discussion. Each time my heart would race, and I'd have to remind myself why I'd walked away. Emily became my rock. She'd check in daily, drag me out for coffee, and listen when I needed to vent. "You're stronger than you think," she'd say. "You're doing the right thing." But doing the right thing didn't make it easier. I started to question everything. Was I wrong to love him? Was I wrong to let him go? What if he really was going to leave his wife? What if I'd given up too soon? 6 months after Laura's call, I got an email from Michael. I almost deleted it, but the subject line stopped me. "I need to see you." Against my better judgment, I opened it. "Sarah, I know I don't deserve your time, but I'm leaving Laura. I've moved out, and we're starting the divorce process. I can't stop thinking about you. I know I've hurt you, and I'll understand if you don't want to see me, but I need to tell you in person how I feel. Please meet me at the cafe where we had our first real talk, tomorrow at 7. If you don't come, I'll respect that, but I hope you will. Michael." My heart raced as I read it. He was leaving her. The thing I'd secretly hoped for was happening, but instead of joy, I felt fear. What if this was another mistake? What if I was just setting myself up for more pain? I spent the whole day agonizing over what to do. Emily told me to stay away. "He's hurt you enough," she said. "You don't owe him anything." But my heart wouldn't listen. I needed closure. Or maybe I just needed to see him one last time. So I went to the cafe. He was already there, sitting by the window, his hands wrapped around a coffee mug. He looked different, thinner maybe, with shadows under his eyes. But when he saw me, his face lit up. "Sarah," he said, standing up. "You came." I sat down, keeping my distance. "I'm here," I said, "but I don't know why." He took a deep breath. "I've left Laura. It's over. I moved out last month and we're filing for divorce. I know I've made mistakes, but I love you. I want to be with you for real this time." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to fall into his arms and pretend the last year hadn't happened. But I couldn't. "What about your baby?" I asked. He looked down, his jaw tight. "I'll be there for the baby. I'm not walking away from that. But Laura and we're not good together. We haven't been for a long time." I shook my head, tears welling up. "You should have told me from the start, Michael. You let me fall for you without knowing the truth. And now there's a child involved. I can't just ignore that." "I know," he said, his voice breaking. "I'm so sorry. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you if you'll let me." I looked at him, at the man I'd loved so fiercely, and I realized something. Love wasn't enough. Not when it came with so much pain, so much guilt. I deserved more than a love that hurt this much. "I can't," I said, standing up. "I love you, Michael. I probably always will. But I can't be with you. I need to love myself more than I love you." He didn't try to stop me as I walked away. I cried the whole way home, but for the first time it wasn't just sadness. It was relief. I'd made a choice for myself, not for him. The months that followed were a slow climb out of the darkness. I quit my job at the agency, needing a fresh start. I took a freelance gig that let me work from home, giving me time to focus on healing. Therapy helped me understand why I'd been drawn to Michael, why I'd let myself get lost in him. I started to forgive myself, to see that I wasn't a bad person, just a human one who'd made mistakes. I also started painting more, pouring my emotions onto the canvas. My work became bolder, more honest. I even had a small gallery show, something I'd never dreamed I'd do. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was enough, just as I was. But life, as always, had one more twist. A year after I walked away from Michael, I ran into Laura at a grocery store. I recognized her from a photo I'd found online during one of my weaker moments. She was pushing a stroller, a tiny baby asleep inside. My heart sank, but I forced myself to approach her. "Laura?" I said, my voice shaking. She looked up, startled. "Sarah?" I wanted to say I'm sorry," I said. "For everything." She studied me for a moment, her expression unreadable. Then she nodded. "Thank you," she said. "We're okay. It's been hard, but we're okay." I nodded, tears in my eyes. "I'm glad." As I walked away, I felt a weight lift. I'd needed that moment, not just for her, but for me. It was closure, the kind I hadn't realized I was still searching for. 2 years have passed since that day in the grocery store. I'm 31 now, and life looks different. I'm still freelancing, still painting, still finding my way. I've dated a little, but I'm not in a rush. I've learned that love isn't something you chase. It's something you build. With someone who respects you, who sees you, who doesn't come with a trail of pain. I think about Michael sometimes, but it's not the same. The love is still there, tucked away in a corner of my heart, but it doesn't control me anymore. I've learned that love doesn't have to hurt to be real. I've learned that I'm stronger than I ever thought I was. I've also learned to forgive myself. I used to hate the person I became during that time. The woman who fell for a married man, who ignored her own morals for a chance at love. But I've realized that mistakes don't define you. They're part of being human. What matters is what you do with them, how you grow. My paintings have become my way of telling my story. Each one is a piece of me, my pain, my hope, my healing. At my last gallery show, a woman came up to me, tears in her eyes. "Your work," she said, "it feels like you've been inside my heart." That moment meant more to me than any sale. It reminded me why I'm here, why I keep going. We all have stories, and sometimes sharing them can help someone else feel less alone. I've also reconnected with my mom in a deeper way. She's always been my rock, but I didn't realize how much I'd shut her out during my time with Michael. Now we talk openly about everything. She told me recently that she's proud of me, not just for my art, but for how I've rebuilt myself. "You're my hero," she said, and I cried, because for so long I didn't feel like anyone's hero, least of all my own. As for Michael, I heard through a mutual friend that he and Laura are co-parenting their daughter. He's moved to a different city, and I don't know if he's found someone new. I hope he's happy in his own way. I hope he's learned, like I have, that love is complicated, but it's worth doing right. Looking back, I see now that my story isn't just about loving a married man. It's about loving myself, about learning what I'm worth, about finding the strength to walk away from something that feels good but isn't right. It's about falling, breaking, and rebuilding. I'm not perfect. I'm still figuring things out, but I'm okay with that. Because for the first time in a long time, I'm living for me. If you're watching this, maybe you've been where I was. Maybe you're in love with someone you shouldn't be. Or maybe you're struggling to let go of something that's hurting you. My advice is this: listen to your heart, but don't let it drown out your head. Love is powerful, but it's not enough on its own. You deserve a love that lifts you up, that doesn't come with secrets or shame. And most importantly, you deserve to love yourself first. It's hard, and it takes time, but it's worth it. You are worth it. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Leave a comment below. I'd love to know your thoughts, your stories. And if you want to follow my journey, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Let's keep growing together.